Hello and welcome to A Quest for Metal. Today we're going to go through my gateway to metal journey and pretty much the bands that got me into metal, the bands that got me into heavier metal as well. So this is kind of like a journey and go through the earliest to the latest, of course. And we're going to do it with 9 albums here on this lovely little chart, which I use for a lot of the essential videos you've probably seen before. But yeah, we're going to start from the very beginning. So the very beginning... I wasn't into metal, of course. I was into like rap and hip hop and stuff like that. I was into like The Game and Ice Cube and NWA and all that stuff. Eminem, of course. Everyone's into Eminem when they're a kid. So yeah, I was just listening to all that kind of stuff. But obviously that's not related to metal at all, so I'm not going to put any of that on the list. But when I was in the car as a kid, my parents would always put on like Fleetwood Mac or Talking Heads, and even though it wasn't my kind of music back then, it still got stuck in my head. And you know, when you listen to something as a kid and then you learn to love it, like Talking Heads, Stereophonics, Fleetwood Mac, there was another one I can't remember. REM is a good one. So yeah, I guess those are the first kind of bands that got me into liking more rocky. I know they're not rocky, it's kind of like indie rock, pop-ish, but that's what got me into wanting to listen to more music rather than just hip-hop and rap. So I guess I'll put, as the first one, should we do Talking Heads? Because what I had was a cassette, which is a compilation, so I don't know which one it was, but I remember this album was amazing. Remain in Light. It was an amazing album. So yeah, we're going to start with them. That was the very first exposure to, I know they're not heavy, but you know, a heavier-ish kind of side to music rather than just hip-hop. So, there we go. That's that one. And then from there, I was looking through the cassette collection. I was like, I want something a bit different. I want something a bit cooler. I checked out cassette, which had the coolest artwork on. It was like a demon on a motorcycle riding out of hell. And I was like, okay, whatever this is, I'm down for it because it looks awesome. It looks awesome. And the band was Meatloaf. And it was Bat Out of Hell. So that would be the second. So yeah, Bat Out of Hell. That would be the second exposure into a different kind of music. And this is it's a lot heavier than Talking Heads. It's a lot different. But I loved it. I loved the music on this one. His kind of deep voice, really dug that. I love the artwork as well. And I just think it was a fantastic album. I still think it's a fantastic album. I still love this album. I still love the Talking Heads ones as well. But yeah, this one is fantastic and got me into like the darker side. And I was like, oh, demons and motorcycles and cool fonts and stuff. Yeah, get me into more of this stuff. But the song Bat Out of Hell as well. Fantastic. See, I played the shit out of that. Played the shit out of that album. Really enjoyed it. And from there, it was kind of a quiet stretch. Only really listening to that kind of stuff. REM, blah, 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 blah. Meatloaf. While still listening to the hip-hop and stuff, which I was more used to. Until, like, CD stores were a thing. And then HMV and all stuff like that, and the local CD stores. I went into HMV and I saw a band called Guns N' Roses, which, everyone knows, but back then I didn't know. And it was like a cross on the album cover with like some skulls, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Maybe it's like Meatloaf. I'm going to check this out. So, you know the album, Appetite for Destruction. There it is. The classic album art. And from then I got really into like rock, and I was like, this is the album that got me into heavier kind of music. And I was like, hell yeah. Like Slash's solos in it are amazing. It got me into guitar. I was like, I love guitar from this album. Vocals, nothing I've heard before. Guitar melodies, nothing I've heard before. Everything's just it opened a book to a new world, pretty much, this album did. And I love it for that. Now, looking back, I'd rather listen to the first 2 albums than this one. At this current moment, I'd rather listen to Talking Heads and Meatloaf than Guns N' Roses, just because kind of gone off that hair metal kind of vibe, but it's still a classic and it still got me into the genre, so I'll give it credit for that. But yeah, that was amazing. So those are the ones that got me into rock and started loving rock from those ones. And, you know, Alice Cooper as well, stuff like that. And then what got me into metal, I was flying back from Australia. I think it was from a holiday there, because I did live there once, but it was from a holiday there to Sydney. And on the plane, there's like those armrests and there's sometimes like radios in there. I remember back then. And I just plugged my earphones in and I was listening to random tracks. And there's one track came on from a band called Metallica. And it wasn't the one you're thinking of. It was actually And Justice for All. The long-ass track. And I fell in love. I was like, what is this music? Why is it so amazing? Why is it so long? I love it. It's so, like, I loved it. From the first time I heard it, I was like, I need to listen to these guys all the time. And I did. So, yeah. And Justice for All. So this is the album that got me into metal. This album right here got me into metal. And I know there's, like, no bass, whatever. But, I love this album. Blackened, I listened to it in full, like, Blackened just, like, blew my mind. Is Dyer's Eve on this one? Yeah. Dyer's Eve, amazing. And Justice for All, the title track, amazing. One blew my mind as well. So this is just an amazing album. This is what skyrocketed me into the genre. This right here, Metallica's And Justice for All. Oh, I loved it. And I from this list, I skipped all the emo phase. I didn't listen to, like, Black Veil Brides, or I didn't listen to Sleeping with Sirens or any of those kind of bands. I went straight from, like, rap to Guns N' Roses, Metallica, and then after Metallica, I listened to them a lot. I listened to all the discography up until, you know, because a lot of the albums weren't out then. Most of the albums I could listen to, I listened to. And then I just basically listened to Metallica all the time. Until I was at a library once, and I saw an album cover which had an evil cloud. And I was like, that's cool, an evil cloud. Who's this band? Iron Maiden? What does that mean? Sounds like a torture device. Let's rent the album, because that's what we did back then. Rented the album, and it... amazing. From there, it's just up, all uphill from there. And you know the album, Evil Cloud, Brave New World. Which is weird, like my first album to listen to from Iron Maiden was Brave New World, of all things, but it's still, if you've seen my ranking, I put it in S tier, just because it's my first album. I think it's one of the best by Maiden. I don't care. It's one of the best. All the songs, The Nomad, Brave New World, Ghost of the Navigator, just everything, Thin Line Between Love and Hate, just everything. Blood Brothers is fantastic on this release. And I'm going to say Metallica's And Justice for All, Iron Maiden, Brave New World got me into metal. Those are the two albums that got me into metal. The others kind of shuffled me into it a little bit, and then these two made me love it. So from there, I was like, I need to hear new music. I need to hear a lot more of what metal has to offer, because so far it's just Metallica, Iron Maiden. You know, standard metal affair. And then I saw an album cover which I was just like, this is weird. What the hell's this band called? Cradle of Filth? What is this nonsense? So yeah, the next band, I jumped straight from Iron Maiden to Cradle of Filth. And it was Pornography. And from the title, I was like, oh, it's a bit risky. I'm gonna go grab it. It's a bit risky. So I bought it from, it was like £5. I bought this one alongside a couple of other £5 releases. Kind of like, I think Evanescence is Fallen as well. So I could put that here as well. But, I mean, you know I kind of like that if I like Metallica and Iron Maiden. So this is my first foray into extreme metal. And I absolutely loved it. I think it's fantastic. His vocal style, I was just like, all my friends hated it. They were like, what is he doing? He's just screaming nonsense. But I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was funny at parts. I know it's one of the weakest Cradle of Filth albums, but because it's the first one I listened to, it's still good to me. I don't care. Fetus of a New Day Kicking was fun Temptations, super fun and cheesy. I love it. Higher and higher, temptation. It's terrible, but I love it. I love it. So this album got me into extreme metal, and from there, it's all upwards. Pretty much all upwards. So from there, I listened to a lot of other stuff, and I was like, oh, what other stuff can I get into? I love Metallica now, I love Iron Maiden, I love Cradle of Filth. I need to get into more music. Then I checked out, also from the same store as £5, a release by Slayer, the mighty Slayer, and it was this one, which I forgot the name, Divine Intervention. This is the album I checked out from Slayer. I still love it to this day. I think it's super fast, super intense, super aggressive. I was like, music is so intense now. I loved it. I want more like Slayer. Give me more like that. So yeah, Metallica got me into metal. Iron Maiden kept me in metal. Cradle of Filth made me love extreme music. Slayer made me love thrash. And then from there, I was listening to a lot of heavy stuff until I found an album called Images and Words by Dream Theater. Where is it? There it is. Images and Words, and it blew my mind. Even though the vocal style wasn't my cup of tea back then, just the melodies, the guitar, and everything else I loved. Thoroughly loved. And it became like a top 10, one of the best albums for me. It still is one of the best albums for me. But now I love the vocals as well. So, this album made me love prog metal. Made me think music can be more than just fast and heavy. It can be take you on a journey, thought-provoking, everything in between, and the solos, so good, so good. And from there, we lead to my favourite band. I want more proggy, I want heavy and proggy. I know I love both of those. Mix them together. We have Opeth. And the first Opeth album I heard was Watershed. It was Watershed. On Saints Row 2 soundtrack, because I like gaming, and I bought Saints Row 2, and I loved it. I was playing the radio on repeat, and it had like Chimera, it had like Paramore, other bands like that, Mastodon was on it, loved all them, and then Opeth, what was it called? Ghost of Perdition, and I was like, well, this is fantastic. So I started researching Opeth, and then I saw that a new album came out, Watershed, so I picked it up. First Opeth album, and I was blown away. This was like the best thing I've ever heard. And now they are my favourite band. And it takes it to pretty much today, where I've heard hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bands, and I love so many different more genres and bands than just this. But this is just a general guide to my progression. So from poppy to rocky to glam rocky to metal to extreme metal to thrash to prog to death/prog. And then from there, started to love death metal, started to love black metal as well. And it all comes full circle. So those are the gateway albums for me. For a lot of the genres, the gateway albums. That is my journey. Hopefully you enjoyed me rambling on about albums. It was fun to make. So yeah, those are my gateway bands to metal. Please put your own in the comments below, because it's fun to see how other people got into metal. And yeah, just hopefully you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you again on another Quest for Metal.